Hello my loves, I'm Ellie Frost. Thank you so much for being on my channel where we are talking about the multi-dimensional approach to rapidly and radically healing and transforming during and after narcissistic abuse. And I want to talk about one of the biggest mistakes we make with the narcissist, right? This is so common. It's common in addicts. It's common in narcissistic abuse is a very similar cycle to an addiction, highs and lows. Trauma bonding, complete imbalance and a complete enmeshment with a narcissist. One of the biggest mistakes you'll ever make with a narcissist is to think you know this person and to think you can handle their behavior. As we get more aware, we think we can handle it. Like an alcoholic thinks I can just handle one drink, especially after they've recovered a bit. The challenge with the narcissist is the whole dynamic relies on highs and lows. And because they're trauma bonding you and messing with your chemical body, your biology, you're under psychic attack, you're under this enmeshment that means that the smallest thing they do gives you an really inappropriate high for just breadcrumbs, for like small pieces of good behavior, because because the dynamic makes you crave relief from the pain, the confusion, the trauma, the walking on eggshells. So when they do something pretty standard that feels good, you get an exaggerated high, right? So you're being chemically imbalanced the whole time. But the challenge is, logically, we think we can handle it. We think, well, I know this person. We think we can predict their behavior. They work in a sequence of behavior that relies on shocking you. So the thing is, this is why it gets worse over time. So many of my clients who have come back to me and said, I didn't see this bit coming. You won't. Because if you actually go back in the relationship, so some people go back and then they realize they don't feel any enmeshment to the narcissist and it's just easy closure. Some of you will think you can outsmart them. If you're playing games to manipulate them, test them, they've got you distorted, because who wants to be in a relationship like that? But what you will underestimate is what they're capable of. In my last relationship, what happened at the end of it was so brutal and ruthless that I never saw that coming. In fact, that wasn't his consistent pattern, but also I wasn't so strong at wanting to leave, I guess. So you cannot predict how they'll shock you next. You can know the pattern that they'll shock you. And what most people think is, well, this time it's different because we've talked about this, or I've been through this, or, we're doing something new in the relationship. It's this ongoing circus of like, why this is different to every other time when actually the sequence is exactly the same, right? A narcissist will pacify you. They'll do what they need to do if they think you're walking away. That doesn't mean they've changed. It means they're strategic. In fact, it's very hard to understand how a human being can be totally cold and totally strategic in how they behave. This is a narcissist. It's a strategy. Everything comes with a scheme and with a manipulation. No other human being other than a narcissist can imagine being that crazy. Like, that is it's sociopathic, it's psychotic, it's not human in the same way. For most of us, we couldn't be as cold and calculated as a narcissist, nor could we imagine how you could be that way. When they think you're going to leave them, they will try everything to keep you a lot of the time, or their tactic could be to discard you to make you want them back, right? But all the time, they're never going to fully let you go, and they'll never give you closure, right, on it. They want to keep a door open. They want to keep you on the hook. They'll come back after decades if they get the chance, often as if nothing has happened. A narcissist will act after a big event, a big disagreement, something significant, as if nothing has happened. That's completely invalidating the seriousness. So you start being desensitized to how serious things are. You don't have a handle on a narcissist because you can't out evil, you can't outsmart evil, you can't out evil, right? But don't underestimate what they're capable of, which will be beyond what you know, because a narcissist keeps score, right? They talk about narcissistic injury. It just means that these are ego monsters. They are people who, well, not even real people, but they are a human shell to an extent, operating with an entity of consciousness that keeps score on everything, and they take offense to everything you do that isn't completely centered around them, which means you will pay for anything they decide wasn't appropriate, which basically means that they will, and they're patient, by the way. A narcissist doesn't, they keep score and they're strategic. They're cold inside. So whereas another human being often will respond and react, right? Instant gratification, instant response. A narcissist will be strategic in how they pay you back. And mark my words, they'll pay you back. I lived with one, not in a romantic setting, in a business setting. And I mean, the things I found out about how he had a girlfriend at the time. He, behind her back, had sex with all her friends. And I heard, he admitted it out of his mouth to me, and then he stopped himself. But I mean, I didn't know a lot about narcissism then, but I know for a fact he was one. And his revenge on her, he was getting off on that. So behind her back, he was screwing her friends. He kept score because she had a tantrum in his mind about he wouldn't buy her a dress or something, and he spilt it, it came out of his mouth, and then he sort of stopped himself because he obviously didn't want anyone to know, because he had a huge public image that he was this great guy, and that she was this crazy young girl that he dated that just had a problem with her regulating her emotions, when the only reason that girl was crazy was because of him. He would drive anyone crazy. So you cannot think, the illusion of this will be, you think you can handle it, you think you can outsmart them, you think you'll be able to predict. They know how to trigger and antagonize you. They intuitively know they work in the psychic realm. It's a multidimensional issue. That entity of consciousness has particular it's tapped into the psychic realm telepathically. They know how to hurt you, and they certainly will wait their time. They do everything strategically. It's not haphazard. It's not like when a human in reactive abuse lashes out, does something they regret, just responds to a situation. A narcissist keeps score. It goes on a meter, and they administer punishment in some way, whether you know about it or not. They often want you to know about what they're doing subtly. Yeah, they want you to be digging and finding out and being confused, and they'll lull you into a false sense of security the whole time. So no matter what you think is different this time, isn't. It's just they've lulled you into a sense of false sense of security, and they're going to sting you in some way, especially when you're rehooked, when you've had a nice period, when it's been like you're back on the hook, you're back in the illusion, you're back thinking this could work, you're back in a comfort zone. They're going to sting you and shock you again. It's a trauma bond. It has to be. So don't lose, think about the facts of the reality, not the illusion. And don't think you can keep handle on someone who is completely operating out of a sort of human way to respond and react. That doesn't work. What can you look at consistently? What's the consistency of the behaviour? Don't think you've got a handle on it, because you haven't. It's aimed to emotionally destroy you. It's aimed to hurt you. It's aimed to, that's what trauma bond relies on. There's no doubt that's going to happen again, especially when this is how it works. This is the cycle, ups and downs. You're lulled into a false sense of security. You buy back into the illusion. You think things have changed. You believe in it. You feel the feelings of once again, and then there comes the shock. Then comes the rebuild. It's over and over and over again. It's exhausting. It wrecks your nervous system. It stops you focusing on yourself and your life. It makes you preoccupied with them, what they're going to do next, puts you back on this underlying anxiety in your life the whole time, which is basically PTSD, and you don't have a handle on it. Because although you know that it's predictable what they'll do, it still hurts you, because it hurts you in ways they know how to hurt you. So while you've got 10 swords in your back, they're twisting the knife. And they'll have something deeper to get you with. Because now, once again, you've invested more. I made a video on this. When you invest more, it feels like you've put more effort in, so you're more likely to think that it should work more. It will in other areas of your life, but not with a narcissist. You have no handle on evil. You have no idea what they're capable of. And if you are actually in an intimate relationship with a narcissist, you do not know this person at all. Most of them have several different versions of themselves, things that they will do behind your back that you will know nothing about this person. You do not know a narcissist, trust me. I've worked with a lot of people now through a lot of these relationships. I've come across obviously my own fair share of narcissists in my life. The life that you know them in is not even like an expression of who they are. There's so much more they tend to get up to that's shocking. Yeah, it's perfectly possible when you see people give interviews on television and stuff, and some of their partners will say they can't believe some things behind the scenes if they've been with a narcissist. Of course they can't. Like, so much of it is hidden. Some of it's in plain sight, and when they want to get at you, you'll notice they will often drop hints that look accidental, but they get off on you knowing bits. Like, so with that narcissist I was telling you about at the beginning, as it happened, one of the people that he screwed, it was complicated, but it involved one of her best friends, and in the end, her and her best friend never spoke to each other again. It was so sad, but the narcissist stayed with her, and she was trauma bonded even when he moved. It was just so messy, but so textbook. Now I know exactly what the pattern is. So he'd keep her in his company working and trauma bonded to him with the possibility that they might get back together, while he'd destroyed her personal relationships, isolated her, and kept her buying into, he would say, well, we could have had a baby by now, and they would reminisce, and it was so unhealthy, right? So unhealthy. But they romanticized it and saw it as something that was loving. No, this is a textbook narcissistic abusive relationship where some of the things she didn't know about, he made sure she dug a bit deeper on something so it would trauma bond her even more, right? Because now she's got no resolution, she's going to want answers. It keeps you trauma bonded to them. When they administer like such big shock and pain to you, you run to the person, even more, wanting them to relieve the pain, which they can't do. It's just a cycle. It's an abuse cycle that you want to exit if you can always exit it. It's not going to be convenient or easy sometimes, but you've got to see it for what it is, right? You've got to see it for what it is and not kid yourself. An alcoholic will say, I can have just one drink. A heroin addict will say, well, just this time, I'm strong enough now, my body's healed, I won't go down the same rabbit hole. And there again, the thing destroys their life. So you haven't got a handle on something that is aimed to destroy your life, and that when you are engaged in it, you know the price you pay. Thinking that you can outsmart it, or it's just part of the illness of what happens to us psychologically from these cycles, right? Understand it's part of the problem, but it's a big mistake to think you've got a handle on it, or you've got any idea what they'll do next in terms of how they'll shock you. The sequence will be the same, the behavior is predictable in terms of the sequence of it, but what they'll do to get at you, it's effective, right? And it depends on at what part they're at in their strategy with you. If they want to discard, they'll do what hurts you most. They'll do what hurts you most in a way that you won't expect. And you'll make up stories about what's different and what you've done now and why why you think you can control something that you really can't, or predict it or minimize its impact on you. It's going to shock you. Yeah? Imagine your body is in, like, if you were whiplashed in a car, you get shocked over and over again. How much can you take? How much can you take? It's going to do it again. It's going to find a way to do it again. So if you are not shocked anymore by some things, they'll find another way. Trust me. It is a predictable sequence, one that you can't have a handle on, because it just annihilates your well-being. How much handle can you have when you keep being whiplashed, with all the willpower in the world? I know it's coming, sure, but your nervous system's still going to be wrecked, right? I hope that helps, guys. Lots of love. I'll speak to you soon.